Welcome on to yet another edition of Down. You're getting us twice in one day. Can you cope? It's good to be back with you, but we do have an update on the Comrades Marathon start. Obviously, a huge announcement was made last week with not too much information, but we do have some clarity on what is happening, and we wanted to let you know first, which is great news. Lindsey, it was quite a whirlwind weekend, wasn't it? Lots of speculation, but thankfully we do have some answers.
Yeah, and I think, look, we're all passionate about Comrades, and there were tons of questions, and we're all trying to answer them. So I think in hindsight, we'll all agree that, when you make an announcement, provide the detail. But yeah, having spoken to a couple of the board members and some of the board members actually responding to our pod last week, I think it's safe to say that they certainly do have the runner's best interest at heart. That's maybe something we should always bear in mind. But yeah, as you said, when there's a void, people will fill it with all sorts of things. But yeah, thankfully, Comrades have come back quite quickly with answers. And yeah, I mean, I say there should be a lot of people who are happy with the changes, particularly the slower 50% of the field.
Yeah, Lindsey, it's so funny. I mean, when the announcement first came out, and I'll be the first one to admit it, I was super critical. Like, I mean, you were. I think you handled it pretty well, but I was having a full go because again, we didn't know what was going on end of last week, and there were lots of questions. I had lots of questions because I'm running, and this isn't as me as part of Coach Parry. This is me as a runner running Comrades in 2025. But we got a super interesting comment on the first video that we did from Rory Stain, who is on the board of the Comrades Marathon, and this was the response that Rory put on. And it's so funny, Linz, because now that I've had time to digest it, now that we've got more information, obviously when it first happened, I wasn't sure, but I was thinking about it on my run this morning, and I actually quite like what they're saying. And I think, as you said, there's a very important lesson for everybody here. And if you are going to make a statement like Comrades made last week, actually just give us the information. By the sounds of it, they had the information. Why they didn't give us in the first place, that's a whole nother debate. But they could have prevented a lot of the speculation and jump into conclusions that was done by just telling runners what was happening. And obviously, Rory's spoken about the traditions, and everybody's going to get the traditions that they were after, talking about the seeding. So I popped it up so people can read it as well. But Lindsey, I think a lot of the questions were answered in here. There was also a great session that was done online via Zoom last night that I managed to catch the recording of. I know you did too. Let's talk about some of the issues. Obviously, we're going to talk about what this means for your training because that's sort of our scope. But I think a lot of people are still, I don't want to say in the dark. I think that it's a lot clearer with regards to what's happening with it too. But as it stands right now, talk us through your understanding of how it's going to work on Comrades Race Morning.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question mark still, literally before I jumped on with this to record this with you, Brad, there was questions on two of the running groups that I am in around the actual seeding. So I think that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle that needs to come in. But I think there's enough information for us not to jump to any silly conclusions when it comes to that. And then, of course, we will talk about how that actually impacts us in terms of preparing for Comrades as we go forward. But look, in a nutshell, Comrades is growing. And it's easy for people to say, oh, we mustn't have a big race. People want to experience Comrades. And with the 100th running coming up, many people are going to want to run Comrades. And so there is a requirement to, even if it's only temporary, and we don't know if that will or won't be, but even if it's only temporary, Comrades is also trying to do the fair thing here, which is to give as many people an opportunity of experiencing Comrades on the 100th running, and with all the special stuff that's going to come with it, and a special medal, and I'm sure there'll be loads of special things that'll be happening. So I think that's the first thing to understand, is that how can you do that? And in its current format, we couldn't do that. We could not have more. I mean, the last down run, I think it was quoted in that Zoom call last night that there were just over 15,000 starters. And it took 11 minutes for the last runner to get across the line. We discussed it on the last pod that it wasn't just the fact that it took 11 minutes to get across the start line, because that has become such a big thing in particular H batches. And the stats show that 50% of people who start an H batch don't finish the race. So that has all led to a situation where we've actually gotten the start has become dangerous because people are jumping over railings, they're squeezing through, they're cutting corners as they're getting into those very dark parts of Maritzburg, and there's just a massive volume of runners flowing over poly shorts in the dark. So I think that's the first thing, is that a lot of this has to do with addressing the safety of the runners at the start. And so the major change is obviously split the start. Now, it's not practical to split the start in Pietermaritzburg. There are one or two options, but they would all need to join before they got to poly shorts. And so it negates whatever advantage you have from having the two starts. You're just going to have the same crumple and bottleneck, much like happened last year with the roadworks, actually, on the uprun. You're just going to have that bottleneck where everybody has to stop and wait. So from that point of view, this is the proactive solution to that problem. People who are from E and back, the old E and back, I know that the times and things still need to come out, but effectively, reading between the lines, the old E and back are going to lose no time. Now, I'm saying E, that's the green number batch. So please, green number oaks, don't go wild. I'm just picking a cutoff line and talking hypothetically. I think the green number oaks might lose their marbles if they get pushed into the second wave, but they won't lose the time to get over the start. They'll be the first people to cross. They will almost be the elite start of the wave two.
Yep.
But anyway, I don't want to get into speculation again, Brad. That's not what we're trying to do.
No, let me jump in there, because on that call last night, Mark Leather said that the E batch, the Green Number Club, and the charity folks, the guys who raise money for Race for Charity, will be at the front of Wave 2. So he said it on the call last night. So
okay,
yeah,
I missed it. Okay, yeah, okay. So that's fine. But again, what was the point of the charity batch? It was to save you time.
Yep.
I mean, now you're saving even more time because now you're going to be first. So there's a big incentive to carry on raising charity. So I love that. And the E guys are now going to lose no time. And importantly, all the traditions of the start are going to be there. They're going to repeat the whole thing twice. So you're not going to lose anything by being in the second wave. You're going to gain time.
Yeah, before we go down the timelines, I also just want to, and I can understand why the green number guys and girls will some of them would be upset that they're not in wave 1, that they're in wave 2. But here, and this is just my personal experience of having always either started in G and H. I don't think I've ever actually started in G. I've only ever started in H because of my qualifying time, and then I have also started in C because of the charity. But when you start that far back, you don't even get to see the start banner. Like, that's how far back you are. You don't get to see the mayor. You don't get to see all the pomp and ceremony that's happening outside City Hall in Pietermaritzburg. So being able to have the opportunity to start at the front, I think that's amazing. Like, when I thought about that on my run this morning, I was like, I need to get my A into G because I want to raise some money for charity, because I want to stand in the front and see all of that like the elite would experience from Comrades Race Day. So yeah, hopefully the Green Number Club does embrace it, because I think it is pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. So, but again, for me, it's a win all around. You know, a lot of the green number runners are strong runners, but a lot of the green number runners also are onto their 20th and 30th and 40th. So they have been getting an advantage not to lose time at the start, but maybe a little bit dangerous at the start because you've got much faster runners trying to get past you. So I think this kind of alleviates a lot of that. Look, Maritzburg, you've run it, I've run it. It's very dark at the start. The road surface isn't amazing. There is no light. And then even if there were lights to switch on in Maritzburg itself, once you get to poly shorts, there are just no lights to switch on. There are no lights. And so I think this makes that a lot safer for getting those thick volumes through. And then when you get into Durban, yeah, the municipalities, given their commitment that all, because there's heaps of street lights. So if we have all those street lights and they're all working, and Comrades is going to put up extra lighting, then I think we can also not worry so much about the finish line safety. But yeah, I think it's mostly about the start, and this is, and they must have talked it to death, right? I mean, it's not. I know that Comrades has been floating this idea of an increased field size for
Years, yeah.
three or more years. So it must have been talked to death. And yeah, in the end, the worst case scenario, I think now, is that runners will lose between 4 and 5 minutes. I mean, that's less than half the time people were losing before. So from that point of view, less panic. People can be more chilled from the start. I think the big thing then is, like, obviously everyone's like, cutoffs. The cutoffs make the race. Well, based on all the stuff that's been in the media over the last 2 years, Comrades were getting much more generous with their cutoffs anyway, and they were trying to give people as much time as possible to get to the point of you have no chance. And so effectively, those cutoffs are only going to apply to the second wave, and people are going to cry foul and whatever, but they are generous enough that you literally, if you can't make those cutoffs, you literally had no chance. I think I saw 6.5 hours for the first, for
Yeah.
halfway's cutoff. I think that's the only one they've finalized. But the point is, if you're not through 6.5 hours, it doesn't matter what was going on you could be a silver runner that just had problems in the first half and maybe make it at 6:25, but 6:30 you're not going to make it. So yes, I think that's the other thing that people can really just chill out about, is that people will be given an opportunity to finish. If you're not going to finish, you're not going to finish. I think you would have no hope. And then obviously the finish line is going to be a little bit new, and there'll be a system there, but wave one will finish down one chute, wave two will finish down another chute. They'll obviously have loads of volunteers there to control that. And this is quite significant and forward thinking, and they're going to have booths where, if you're unhappy or dispute the time for whatever reason, you can go in there and you can appeal the decision right then and there, and someone will assist you. Now look, I hope I hope no one volunteers me to work in those booths, but I applaud Comrades for doing it. I think that's great. So I think there will be some teething problems, and they know there'll be teething problems, and so they've put something in place there to deal with those problems right then and there.
Yeah, Lindsey, and I think a lot of people's concerns around the finish, again, this comes from lack of information or from the first announcement, was like, how do you deal with who gets what medal? And obviously in the subsequent information that's come out, they've spoken about this. But I think where one of the challenges where people were really struggling to wrap their head around this is where Two Oceans did this a few years ago, where they started with these wave starts, but they don't just have two waves, they've got multiple waves. So you then sitting with a situation where there's 10, 12, 15 different waves, and it's really difficult to manage. Comrades have got two. There's going to be color-coded numbers, little block on the numbers, so it is going to make it a lot easier to manage come Comrades race day, I think. Running the Comrades Marathon doesn't have to be scary and intimidating. Just thinking about running 90 kilometers or 56 miles should give you butterflies in your stomach. Add to that the hills you have to run up and down, and having to do it in under 12 hours. The thought of it is enough to freak the most seasoned runner out. Never mind a newbie to ultra running or a Comrades Marathon novice. As much as Comrades is a physical challenge, it's just as much a mental challenge. The constant mental gymnastics of second guessing yourself takes its toll. Am I training enough? How long should my long runs be? How many marathons should I run? What does this pain in my knee mean? My ankle is sore. Should I rest or run? And then the two big ones. Am I fast enough? And will I finish? The questions never stop. The constant worrying is exhausting. And that's exactly why we've created the Comrades Marathon Training Roadmap. It's a proven step-by-step training plan to get you from where you are today to having a Comrades medal around your neck without the stress and worry, knowing that you've done what it takes to finish the ultimate human race, feeling strong and in control, ensuring that you arrive at the start line fit and, most importantly, injury-free, because more than 64% of those who didn't finish the race last year started with an injury. The Comrades Marathon Training Roadmap guides you through every step of your Comrades journey: training, qualifying, tapering, and race day. We've got you covered every step of the way. Simply head over to coachparry.com/down or click on the link in the description below. That's coachparry.com/down.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there's going to be some mixing, and there's going to be people that are in wave one that have a terrible day, and they are going to get to the finish line after 12 hours, but they aren't going to get a finishing time. They're not going to get a medal. Again, there might be an argument that they possibly sneak across the line and get a finishes, but I don't think that's going to happen. And it'll be like a bit of fluke, or do they somehow sneak into the second shoot? Yes, there's going to be one or two people like that, but part of the reason why we're here, and it does irritate me a little bit about runners in particular, South Africans in general, runners in particular. You go to the start of a race, and suddenly a time comes that you feel like you're going to be late, and now suddenly your starting on time becomes more important than everyone else is starting on time. You start driving down one ways, you park in front of people's gates. I mean, man, what would you do, Brad, if you came out of your house in the morning to go to church, if you're a church goer, or to do your weekly shop, because that's what you do on that day, and you can't get out because some, let me not say the word, has parked in front of your gate? I just don't. That's the same thinking that people use to jump over barriers or tear barriers. Or I watched a security guard getting manhandled by runners. I mean, that behavior is not okay. So there is a little bit of onus on the runner here. If you're starting in the first wave and the chute is clearly closed, don't sneak into the wrong chute. You're putting all sorts of people under pressure when you do that. You're putting people in a confrontational space where they've now got to come and stop you. And now, yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into it too much, but I know you've run all day. I know it's tough when you don't finish Comrades. Well, actually, I don't know how. No, I have DNF to Comrades, so I know how cuck it is not to finish Comrades. It's not so okay that you need to go and make it someone else's problem. There is next year. It's hard, but there is next year.
Yeah, Lindsey, and I think that just also goes. I think that does need to be said, because there isn't total clarity yet on how they're going to start wave one and how they're going to start wave two, and where are people from wave two going to stand at the start. And you and I have both run majors, and that process is very different to the way they handle races in South Africa, and it's new for everyone. So it's a case of we just need to be decent human beings. That's all we're asking, is just be decent human beings and follow the rules. That's as simple as it is. It's not hard, but I know for some people it's hard, apparently, but let's just try that. Let's be decent human beings and follow the rules, and everything will be okay. Lindsey, I think the big question that pertains to us now is obviously seeding, and there's still no clarity, or not no clarity. It hasn't been decided yet who's going to be in what wave, who's going to be sort of where in what wave. With regards to seeding, obviously they've said that no A, B, C, D, and that no longer applies. Obviously, your qualifying time does matter, but what does that mean for qualifying and running faster marathons and ultra marathons? Should we now be trying to smash a marathon as hard as we can?
I think even less so. So I mean, because you've heard me talk so many times. Like literally from March onwards, you just hear me. I have the phrases: "Don't chase the pen, don't chase the pen." Now you've got even less incentive to chase the pen. Comrades for G&H has just slashed your time to get over the line in half. So there's no need for you to go and chase that time. And again, the main reason I don't want people to do it is because the training is going to make you better than those 2 minutes on race day can make you. And if you race another marathon, you're dead in the water. You know, you off air made the classic comment. I mean, you go and race next week to race your guts out, and you get a 3:55. That's probably going to put you into wave one. Lacquer right at the back of wave one. So whereas you could have been right at the front of wave two.
Yeah.
If you'd run a 4:15 marathon, you'll be right at the front of wave two, and you lose a few seconds to get across the finish line. No, now you're going to be right at the back of wave one, and you're going to you're going to lose 5 minutes to get over the line. So no, I think there's even less incentive now to chase that seeding. Get your qualifying time. Make sure that you are on the start line. You want to kind of be with the runners you're going to run with, Brad. I think that's also another thing that people kind of tend to forget here. It's like that a 3:59 or a 4:01, that's not going to take you away from the runners that you are going to run with at Comrades. So you don't need to break yourself in qualifying. Please don't. Use this time now to prepare well. We're in week 2, well into week 2 now of March, actually the start of week 3. And yeah, we chatted about it on the pod when we recorded last night, but we've got Omdi Dam coming up this weekend. So training runs, guys. All the runs from now on, all the races, training runs, and just enough effort to qualify.
Yeah, it's amazing what a difference 72 hours can make. I'm feeling way more positive than I was when the announcement was first made. I actually quite like it. The more I think about it, the more I go, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I'm willing and waiting to see how it does pan out. But I think, as we said at the start of this recording, a valuable lesson for everybody involved, that if you are going to make an announcement, make sure you give all the information so people can actually go, you know what, this is cool. Or we're making informed decisions, that we're not jumping to conclusions.
No, agreed. And then what I do want to compliment the board and the race office on is that they have been very open to taking calls, to getting onto social media and answering questions. So I agree with you, Brad. Provide all the information up front, but also just to acknowledge that they certainly have been at the forefront, very active, happy to explain. It's been very good to deal with the board, I must say.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And if anybody wants to contribute towards my charity initiative to get me to the front of the second wave, you're more than welcome to. You can search for me on the Comrades website. My Race for Charity profile is up. So make sure you go and donate some cash if you don't mind. That'll be really cool. Lindsey, thank you so much for your time. We'll be back again next week for another edition. I did it in the last podcast. There is a bit of a gentleman's agreement here. We don't charge for these podcasts and YouTube videos. But in response and sort of in return, we do expect you to hit the subscribe button and leave us a like as well. And let us know in the comments what your thoughts are about the sort of details that are coming out. We'd love to know your thoughts on the start and how you're feeling about it now that you know a little bit more as well. Lindsey, as always, we'll chat soon. Cheers.